Heavenly Delusion Tengoku Daimakyou is one of the rare cases where the anime adaptation is actually better than the manga. However, the anime left out and altered tons of scenes. In this video, I'll show you all the major scenes that were cut, changed, and added to the anime, and I'll explain how the manga-only content affects the entire storyline. Lots to get into here, so let's jump into it immediately. We'll start with the omitted source material major scenes only, and there is no bigger deleted scene than the one after Dr. Usami aka Shiro commits suicide. In the anime, Maru and Kiriko find him holding a button with the Takahara Academy logo at the end of episode 8, and then the next time we see Kiriko and Maru, they run into Juichi in episode 9. That is not what happened in the manga. Two massive things happen in between. First, after Kiriko and Maru find Usami's body on the roof, Kiriko passes out. Maru has no idea what's going on. He carries Kiriko downstairs and they run into Mizuhashi. This is the woman that the cult Leviathan used as a martyr. If you remember, she pretended that she got hit in the head. Brilliant acting. Give that woman an Oscar. Pistorius.
Oh! I'll be here all week.
The cult leader ordered one of the members to kill Mizuhashi, but instead he set her free, and she even starts using the prosthetic leg that Usami made for her again. While they're discussing Kiriko's symptoms, Mizuhashi says that Maru is the only one in the room who doesn't know what's going on. Kiriko jumps in saying he doesn't know what's going on either. That's when Mizuhashi says Kiriko is going to have, drumroll please, a period. Now, why is this important? It means that biologically, Kiriko's body can potentially give birth to children. Let's remember the timing of this scene. If they put this in the anime, it would appear in episode 9. Robin's assault is in episode 12, and it lasted for 2 whole days, etc. Why did they leave this scene out? In my opinion, they didn't want the dialogue around the show to be entirely dominated by speculation that Kiriko was pregnant after episode 12. As a manga reader, I can tell you, the discussion is tiresome. Including this period scene in the anime would have caused an even bigger backlash to Robin's assault, so they decided to cut it. That's my best guess. At the time the anime came out, we were only at chapter 52 in the manga, and it wasn't clear how things were gonna go, but yes, Kiriko had a period and some pretty debilitating PMS. Maybe they're gonna have a flashback in season 2 with this information. We'll see what happens. For now, enjoy the ride. The other scene in between that they took out. After Kiriko recovers and they leave Mizuhashi, they run into 2 bandits looking for paint. Initially, the bandits reminded Kiriko of his past, Haruki's sibling relationship at the racetrack. But for Maru, he says the bandits reminded him of themselves. Kiriko cracks a smile, basically agrees, could have been a heart warmer for the anime. Also shows a little bit of growth as they move from client bodyguard status to survivors with genuine affection for each other. Remember early on, Kiriko says that being Maru's bodyguard is just a job. Obviously it isn't if Kiriko thinks their bond reminds him of his relationship with his sister. Why did they cut this 10 out of 10 scene? I think they're crafting the romantic storyline for Maru and Kiriko, and especially for Western audiences, you don't want to stress that one character sees it as a sibling relationship if you want them to later on become romantic. So they cut it to leave room for that possibility. However, it is ironic because Maru pretty much calls Kiriko big sis the entire time, despite declaring his love. I actually wish they kept the scene in the anime, but such is life. Everything can't make it.
But you didn't even know that shit, did you?
Another massive scene that gets cut has to do with the 4 Takahara kids that escape at the end of the season 1 finale. For stylistic reasons, they ended with the full confirmation that Shiro is Usami, Hoshio is Mimihime. Very emotional, powerful. Then we get an ending credit scene with all 4 of the escape kids on a boat. Taka, Anzu, Mimihime, and Shiro. Again, in the manga, a lot happens in between. First, Shiro and Mimihime make it all the way to a road. And then there's this funny scene where Shiro thinks that a car is a cleaning robot. Of course, it was Aoshima picking them up, but importantly, Aoshima asks if the other 3 was with them. Shiro says only 2 people came outside with us, Taka and Anzu. So the question is, who the hell else escaped? Did she think that Kona was with them, or did someone else wander off? Who knows? And then there's another scene before the boat ride. Anzu and Taka make it to the shore, and they're confused. They wonder if it's the end of a test. Suddenly, as Taka looks at the view, he says something about the view feels like a nightmare, which, again, makes me ask, what the hell is going on? It could be that the view looks like a celestial object crashing into Earth, so potentially resembling the Great Disaster, or it could signal something else. I cannot say definitively. Aoshima picks up everyone, gets on the phone to talk to who we assume is Sawatari, her accomplice, and she gets the 4 kids out of there. Additionally, she confirmed that the school was bombed on purpose during that phone call. Now, why did they cut all this out? Honestly, the Anzu Taka ship gets very little screen time in the anime. It's pretty much all Shiro Mimihime and Tokio Kona. There's even another scene they cut out where Mimihime doesn't want to hold Taka's hand because it feels inappropriate. I think they wanted to end the Takahara timeline on Mimihime Shiro because it was more emotionally compelling. I also think they wanted you to wonder if the bombing was the Great Disaster happening or if it was something else. So they withheld that Aoshima phone call, and they probably wanted to save Aoshima's ulterior motives for season 2. I think she'll be far more prominent when the show returns, and they're basically saving it to keep up some mystery.
Okay, what else?
Next, Robin is more paternal in the manga. In the anime, after Robin rescues Haruki, he gives advice on strategy in a pretty cold-hearted way, almost sociopathic tough love advice. In the manga, he's much more of a guardian, as you can see in this exchange. Even his facial expressions seem less ruthless in the manga. The reason for the change is obvious. The fan reaction to episode 12 in the anime surprised me because I thought the anime actually did a good job of hinting at Robin's true character. It's also true that the episode 12 assault on Kiriko is much more difficult to get through in the manga. The manga is way more graphic. This change was definitely the right thing to do, and I think anime-only people will have a greater appreciation for the Robin foreshadowing if they ever rewatch season 1. Next up, my favorite fan theory, because I came up with it myself. In the manga, Mina is the one who wants to cremate Taruo after they take samples. In the anime, the director is the one who asks to cremate Taruo after they get samples. Sounds small, but that is a big difference. I think they switched who asks for the cremation to drive home how distraught the director was over Taruo's death and make it seem like she wanted to give him a proper send-off. But I wish they didn't change it from the manga scene for a couple reasons. First, the scene when they discover Taruo's deteriorating core makes more sense with Mina asking for the cremation. I think Mina knew that Taruo would turn into a man-eater, and so she had them cremate Taruo so that the Takahara staff wouldn't find out about the transformation. Check my last video on why Mina is shady. Second, and more important, there are other deleted scenes related to Taruo from the manga. Specifically, Mimihime has multiple visions of Taruo running around before he got sick as a kid, which leads me to believe that they cloned Taruo and raised the clone at a different facility, or maybe just in a different wing. That's my personal fan theory. Remember, he was super strong, which is a very desirable trait, and we know based on what happened with Tokyo's kid that they have cloning capabilities. There's no reason to believe that Tokyo's kid is the first clone that they made. The only reason I think they cut this from the anime is because Mimihime is only shown to have premonitions about things that'll happen in the future. Maybe they thought it would confuse the audience. Who knows? Also, in the manga, this Taruo vision has not shown up again. So maybe they wanted to see how the source material developed that angle before putting it in the anime. That's my best guess. But just remember who told you if this thing comes true. On to the next. Aoshima powers, the spy who shagged me. I've already spoken about Aoshima picking up the 4 kids that escape and her phone call about the bombing. You know about her plotting with Sawatari to do the Noah project and cloning Tokyo's kid. But the manga shows even more stuff on Aoshima. Most importantly, after the director raises her clearance, she tries to explore all of the Takahara Academy rooms that she previously couldn't access. First, she does what anyone would do, which is check out what kind of food she can get. Then we see all the genetically altered meat and plants that they were growing in the facility. Remember, the anime mostly focused on showing us the tomatoes for the Takahara timeline. Then in chapter 27, she starts looking around the Mina machine in the sanctum. She's able to open some of the pods, but they were all empty. Then she gets to this one pod and Mina will not open. Mina asks her for a password, which of course Aoshima doesn't know. Aoshima has to bail and the scene ends. Again, they might be saving the Aoshima mystery for season 2. But Aoshima gets way more screen time, panel time, whatever you want to say. She gets way more scenes in the manga, and we like Aoshima over here. In the anime, Kiriko and Maru agree to go to the Wall City with Juichi, and then they head straight there. In the manga, bandits actually pull up on Juichi's car. One of them has a crossbow and gives Juichi the Code Geass treatment. As you might expect, man like Maru springs into action. The weapons that the bandits had were hilarious, by the way. You quite literally could get washed. After Maru drops them, Kiriko tells Maru that it was dangerous. Maru says he reacted precisely because it was dangerous and that Kiriko taught him how to fight like that in the first place. Kiriko thinks to himself that he could never beat Maru in a fight even with a gun. This is another scene I wish they kept. I think the audience sometimes forgets the brutality and danger around every corner that can exist in post-apocalyptic worlds. Something like this would remind them that civilization has collapsed, and also that Maru is Maru. I see lots of questions and comments in the Heavenly Delusion subreddit pretty much every day that analyzes things from the show as if governance and laws and rules are still in place. Why does Kiriko do this? How come Maru didn't do that? Because the world is fucked, that's why. So I wish they kept this scene just to remind the audience how perilous life is. We follow two nice upstanding characters, but there are bandits everywhere. Reason will not necessarily win. Sometimes it's just brute force. Adults will look to exert influence and power, particularly by preying on children or the vulnerable. It all makes sense. It's the fucking apocalypse. Anyway, this fight scene would have been a goodie to put in there. I liked it. In early manga chapters, Tokio was explicitly referred to as a boy. From the anime, people either thought Tokio was a girl the whole time, or they started out thinking Tokio was a boy but ended up thinking Tokio was a girl. The answer is that Tokio is not strictly a girl or a boy biologically. This is still a theory. We're entering into spoiler territory, but in chapter 45, we found out something that might explain Tokio's true nature. That is, Tokio has a wiener and a hole. Bruv, that was so awkward to say. Like, I might cut it. It's not really a deleted scene, but I will say the manga definitely just lied to us for 12 chapters and said Tokio was definitively a boy. Or maybe I should be mad at the translators, I don't know. I'll debate anyone about the assault that Robin does in episode 12 because it's actually very relevant for the storyline and not just a trope that gets pushed into the story. However, I have no defense for the brother-sister trope in the anime and manga. It's extremely overdone. And even a masterpiece like Tengoku Daimakyou, which is normally filled with so much originality, indulges in this trope. The anime already hints at Haruki having romantic feelings for his sister, but it's much more clear in the manga. Haruki literally says that he wants to be with his sister in the manga. Super glad that they cut this out from the anime, don't care why they did it. The Kiru-Beam is actually called the Murder Beam in the manga, and they tell us way more details. It can shoot through iron and damage man-eaters, range limited to 5 or 6 meters. More importantly, it takes 30 seconds to charge before it can be fired, which is not mentioned in the anime at all. Also, they explain why it sometimes is unreliable in quotes. Basically, it's unreliable when the battery doesn't have enough charge, so it isn't just bad luck if the 4th shot doesn't happen. Mina is funnier in the manga. She tells a bunch of jokes and has quick-witted remarks. I think they took most of that out of the anime because they wanted her to seem more robotic. In the manga, she's very much like Rosie from the Jetsons. She's also more nipply, you know, putting the AI in hentai. Probably a good decision to take away her personality, but she is legitimately more entertaining in the manga. Quick differences because I hate editing. Mentioned this in my previous video. Maru talks about the stitch mark on Kiriko's head and found an additional wound, which we learn is the gunshot wound. We also get a brain transplant flashback very early in the manga when they were at that hotel. In general, there is way more nudity in the manga. The assault is more graphic, the hotel woman's decapitation was worse in the manga, etc. There is an extended scene with Tokio asking the teacher about the last question. Also, we have more detail on Tokio's before bed sequence after talking to Mimihime about the outside of the outside. Dude from the tomato farm knew it was Kiriko after the handshake. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who thought this handshake was awkward in the anime. We learned the reason for it in the manga. Kiriko was glad to find someone who was a fan of his sister's, so he basically gave the dude the Oshinoko idol treatment. Meet and greet, handshake, only thing missing was a picture and an autograph. Maru is hornier in the manga. Maru is more ruthless in the anime, but also more emotionally in touch in the anime. In terms of what the manga does better, Tokio throwing Mimihime is way funnier in the manga. Maru sounds way more like a badass when bandits talk about him in the manga. In terms of what the anime does better, tons. Kuku's baby reveal is better. Shiro watching Mimihime from the balcony is better. Maintenance robots have way more detail. Racetrack Hirako camouflage is better. Maru's backstory has more detail. Usami's suicide is incredible in the anime. In the manga, we are actually downstairs with Kiriko and Maru when it happens. The anime puts you on the roof as he makes his final decision. Also in the manga, Maru only says that he's the opposite of Robin, and Maru did not cry after they found the body in the manga. The anime makes Maru much more personable and in touch with his feelings again. In terms of anime original scenes, these are things that are not in the manga but are in the anime series. The main ones are Maru's first fight scene, the superhero keychain for Juichi, and the footprints when Tokio escapes from the incubator room. That footprint was not immediately seen in the manga. It was almost immediately found in the anime.
Look at the time! Look at the time!
I swear to you, this video was supposed to be 10 minutes. You see the way I edit, shit's way too long. I'm calling it here. Manga spoiler video on the way. I'll try to drop more consistently. Leave a like on the way out. Elsai Kangru, Big Kumo signing off.